Hi guys and girls, I'm Karel from the store department, and in this video we're going to do two things. I'm going to talk about how to skip time, how to show passing time in a screenplay without describing all the events that happen over that period of time. And then we're going to go back to the log lines from our live stream. On Saturday, that was the 7th of April, the 6th in the US, we reviewed a number of log lines that were submitted to us, and we did that live while you guys were on the call. However, we were struggling with our technology, and the first kind of 15 minutes were not used in the best way possible. So a few of those log lines were not reviewed, and over the next few videos we're going to cover 2 or 3 of those each time. So I'll be joined by Nir Shelter again in a pre-recorded session in which we're going to cover a few of those log lines. So if you submitted a log line for the live stream and yours was not mentioned, then it may well be in today's video. But first, a very frequent challenge for the screenwriter is to compress time, because you don't want to describe everything that happens in the real time frame of your story. You want to skip forward. And I received a question on the story department specifically about how to show the skipping of time or the compression of time of a sports game. So how do you go from the beginning of the game to the end without describing everything that happens and still have an acceptable smooth flow on the screen? Now let me preface my answer by saying that challenges like these are exactly what you as a screenwriter need to do. This is where you can distinguish yourself from others, because there are many things that are prescribed, that are conventions, that are rules, such as formatting. But in this area, you can show your creativity, your originality. Now, I can give you suggestions, and they're probably not going to be the best ones. They may be the ones that you've seen before or the ones you think of immediately. But ultimately, you will need to find your best way for your story. Now, how do you know whether something works? You can study films that have done this, because every single film needs to do it. There's only a few films that show stories in real time. You know, the setup, the film noir boxing film, or Rope, Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, and then that film that was shot in the Hermitage. I forget the title of it. Anyway, that was like this long one take. But normally you have to compress time. So I'll give you an example for the sports game. What you could do is, for instance, show a clock twice. So show the clock at the beginning of the game, cut to the audience, and then go back to the clock. In fact, you wouldn't cut in this case, you would fade. When you show passing of time, it's better to fade than to do a straight cut. But the clock is clunky. You could do a super, 87 minutes later, that's clunky as well. So find something that's more elegant and that suits your story. Maybe you want to cut away to kids playing, behind the grandstand, or the shadows on the ground changing. It's not very inventive either, is it? See, you need to come up with the best way, an original way, ideally, to show this. And that's how you become a great screenwriter, to have a tool bag that provides fresh solutions to very common challenges for the screenwriter. I hope that was helpful. Let's now move to our logline reviews. I'm going to put up my headphones. I'm going to welcome Nir Shelter, who's going to assist me. Nir is my fellow logliner from Logline.it. That's the website where you can post your loglines, and you can post them any day, anytime. You don't need to wait for a live stream. So let's go to Nir and tackle a few of your loglines.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
We've got a fair amount of work to do, because some loglines were not reviewed during the live stream, and obviously there have been a lot more since. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at those loglines that were posted after Joel's. Joel posted his specifically for our live stream, and we assume that everyone posting between Joel's and the actual date on Saturday also wanted us to review them. So the first one we're going to look at is a pretty meaty one by Clee4.
Yeah.
A self-centered up-and-coming actor is about to have his once-in-a-lifetime big break meeting with a control freak star director, but his neurotic casual girlfriend reveals that she's pregnant, unplanned. Certain he's the father, potentially bringing everything he's worked for crushing down, causing him to morally juggle his priorities.
That's big.
You know what? And at the same time, to me, it feels small. It feels a short film. It feels like it's a short film. It feels like it's just this one thing. It was about just one event. She's going to go to this meeting, and now, he's going to this meeting, and now this happens. If you're going to extend that to a feature, it may feel like a theater piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless there's a whole lot of stuff that is not in the log line. What I mean is that the second act will take an entirely different direction. Let's quickly look at our system of character, event, action. So we have a very clearly defined character, the actor. He's self-centered. And so what we understand is that his career is above anything else. And we assume that may become his journey. So the event then is he's confronted with the pregnancy of his girlfriend. But then you could argue, how is that a big deal? Because it happens every day. This is something every day. There will be someone who's working to, build a creative career, and practical issues happen. I mean, you and I know about this.
Are we talking about here, personal experience?
Exactly. I mean, we're both in the industry. We know what it is like. You're struggling and you're facing everyday reality. Yeah. And you know what? I think for us, this is a big deal. But for the punter who's going to the movies, they don't care. They don't care about movies about filmmaking, movies about actors, directors usually don't work. They work for the in crowd, or maybe if they're done by a very big name director, then maybe people.
Well, actually, they call it Hollywood Insider movies. Normally work best when it's Hollywood insiders doing them, like World's End, and they can then throw back self-referencing scenes. In other words, they talk about themselves as themselves in the real world, but relocate it to an imaginary world.
Yeah,
and that works.
The Player, Living in Oblivion, a Bowfinger, they were. I thought they were great films, but they never broke out big. Even Last Tycoon was, I think, it was a failure. And you can go on and on. Movies about movies, they're dangerous.
Hollywood Insider films are very, very difficult to sell. I've had a few discussions with a few producers that have told me outright that's a problem. For anyone who comes up to them and pitches a Hollywood Insider, which means a film about a film, show about a show, what have you, they straight away switch off. They don't want to know about it. They're not interested in it.
Maybe the behind the scenes of actors is tabloid material and not necessarily feature material.
Yeah. However, there is a rare exceptions. There are exceptions to every rule. And there are things right now like Unreal, which is a television series. I personally don't like it, but it is a relatively successful television series.
I think it's fantastic, but it is exquisitely written. The execution is just supreme. So what I was going to say, this in the hands of a very skilled writer could end up being amazing.
I'd argue that no, I think that you do need a Hollywood insider developing the concept. You need a big name developing the concept for it to be a concept about filmmaking or about TV making. I mean, there's other examples like Aaron Sorkin's Newsroom. That wasn't big. I mean, it was a huge show, but it wasn't very successful.
Yeah, he has quipped about the limited success of his shows. Even he insinuated that on the paid channels, the HBOs and the Netflixes, because the numbers are never revealed. He says that they don't need to generate big numbers; they just need to generate hype, so that these networks get new subscribers.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the positive, I think that the logline is well written. It's a long logline, but it is fairly. I mean, it's got all the elements. You could rewrite it and have, when an up-and-coming actor hears his girlfriend's pregnant, when he's about to have his, career-breaking meeting and so forth. But overall, I think Cleve 4 managed to capture what is essential to tease. I think, to my taste, the concept's just not big enough to sustain a feature. You could do a pretty strong short film about this.
It's a bit long.
Yeah.
I just counted the words in a Word document, just did a word count. It came out 45 words. And there is a place for longer log lines, but they're a very rare exception to the rule. And I don't believe this is one. So I believe this should be written in 30 words and no more, and can and should be written in 30 words and no more. I did actually comment on the previous version that he posted on this, which I think was a day or two before what this current post that we're looking at. And he did in reply in kind and explain that he was trying to create an existential crisis drama. And the wording, what he called existential crisis, I don't believe qualified as such, because it's not existential. It's a prioritization. So the main character needs to choose between his career and between his family. Who does he love more? And the choice that he's going to make accordingly will then determine what kind of a character he is. But this goes back to a comment that I think you and I make often. It's that stories are not about a choice. They're about the action that comes after a choice. So even if this is a once-in-a-lifetime big break opportunity, but at the same time there's a pregnancy, once he chooses, that's it. It's over. Like you said, it's a very short scene.
Yeah.
Not a lot. There's not enough meat there. What's interesting is what happens to him after that moment, and that's what we want to see. And that's not in the log line, so we don't actually know what the plot is.
So to summarize, it's the type of log line that covers a fairly mundane event that should not require such a long sentence. You should be able to bring that in a very simple sentence. And just to wrap up, I would say that there's a few things at the end that you can leave out just like that, because when he says potentially bringing everything he's worked for crashing down, we would assume that that's not specific. He's not adding anything to the specifics, to the facts, causing him to morally judge his priorities. Every character in every movie needs to morally judge their priorities. So leave that sort of stuff out of loglines, guys.
He's in a literal sense stating the very essence of drama.
Correct.
That's
right. Exactly.
It's. I keep saying to people, let the elements of the story do that. Force the reader to realize that that's what the character is going to be up against. Don't tell us.
Precisely. Or give us the specifics. If they're wildly original, give us the specifics of what it is exactly. Let's move on to the next one, written by Kill Loud.
Yeah.
In his case versus the state, when a broke criminal lawyer realizes he's in fact defending a criminal, he faces an ethical fight.
It's,
again, fairly mundane.
Yeah.
I think this happens. The lawyer, defending a criminal. I mean, what's special about that?
Nothing.
No, the only thing here about the lawyer is that he's broke, and then we have the verdict, right?
Yeah.
And can you beat Mamet at his game? Maybe not.
And pretty much Al Pacino. I'm trying to remember. I'm looking now up on IMDb. If you look, my eyeballs are looking down. I'm not trying to be clever and remember off the top of my head names.
I know which one you're going to mention. A fantastic film.
It's a great film.
Yes.
Good God, he's done a lot.
Yeah,
hasn't he?
1970s, mid or late 1970s.
Hold on. And Justice for All.
Yes.
Okay.
Fabulous film.
Amazing film, but it's starring one of the best actors of all times, written in the most exquisite of ways. I mean, it's a great film, and the point of that is it hinges on that very moral, the morals of the law game, the law industry. How can a lawyer uphold their ethics when they know certain elements, certain truths about their clients? So
what Kill Out needs to do is he needs to write And Justice for All meets and now something wildly different.
Exactly my point.
Which this is not.
Exactly. I mean, the whole hinging on that, can you defend a person whom is guilty, but, and at the same time uphold your ethical practice? I don't know. And again, the question, the ethical dilemma that he's trying to create here for the main character has been done before and executed wonderfully in other films. So I don't believe this is original enough to get sold today. What you suggest is exactly what I'm trying to say. If you can combine this with Alien, you got me. You know what I mean? Take it elsewhere. but use the same dilemma you're trying to create for your main character.
Final note about the structure of this logline. Leave out in his case versus the state. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The event is when a broke criminal lawyer realizes he's in fact defending a criminal. That's the event. That's the event. The character is embedded in there. A broke criminal lawyer. Now, obviously, we want to know what his flaw is, what is going to be his inner conflict. Because if there's going to be an ethical fight, he's going to have to make choices that are challenging some weakness, some moral or psychological weakness, and we want to know what that is. So the facing an ethical fight is not a clear and conscious action, and we need an action. We need an intent that can be visualized. So this is just it's inner conflict. An ethical fight is not visible unless you give it an action vehicle. So really, the action is lacking. So
because the goal is lacking. We don't know what his goal is.
Precisely. So Kill Out, you need to have a look at our guidelines on the website, and your next version of this logline should incorporate those three elements. And can I please impose again, guys, when you rewrite your logline, please do not post it again. We've had a few people reposting the same logline as a new one, even with comments, and it looks messy. It clutters the whole thing. Anyway, I stop ranting. Yeah, and we're back. And Nir will be back as well in a few days for the next session where we review the loglines that didn't make it into the live stream. We'll also keep covering other topics. And as you know, my favorite topics are the midpoint reversal, concept, thresholds, things like that. The inciting incident or the call to adventure is another one. And if you have questions, just put them down below the video, and we'll hope to pick them up in one of the next videos. If you enjoy this video and this channel, please subscribe. We'd really appreciate that, and we'll hope to see you back for our next video. See you then. Bye-bye.